Right, 80 metres then. So, not an easy band if you live in a mid-terrace house like I do with not a lot of garden space. I've been thinking about this and trying to work out the best way to do it, and I'm wondering if I can work with what I've already got. So, I've already got a quarter wave vertical for 40 metres with the radials spread on the ground. I've seen videos on YouTube, and DX Commander is a good channel to look at if you want to see this, where people have put multiple elements up one mast. So effectively, you have a fan vertical. So I'm wondering if I can run a second element up my 40 metre mast to around about, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 metres above the ground, and then come off and tie it off the rest of the wire on the fence. So essentially, I'm going to have a inverted L on 80 metres. Now, I'm not sure how much interaction I'm going to get between the two elements, but I figured amateur radio is all about experimentation, so we'll give it a go and see what happens. Right, photo album time then. So this is a photo of my back garden, and the most obvious thing there is the 12 metre tall steel mast with the Moxon beam on the top. That's my 20 metre antenna. Come to the left of that, behind the caravan, you can see a 12 metre black fiberglass pole sticking out the ground. That's a 12 metre fiberglass spider beams mast. It's currently got a quarter wave vertical on it for 40 metres. If you look very carefully, it's extremely difficult to see in this photo, but just above the height of the chimney there's a guy ring on there, and you've got 4 guy ropes. So I'm proposing to put a quarter wave element for 80 metres up to that guy rope, which is roughly about 7 metres off the ground, and then come back down and tie it off on the end of the garage block to the right hand side of the photo. So that's going to give you a inverted L. Now, I would guess we're probably going to get a little bit of interaction and coupling going on with the steel mast. That mast is concreted in the ground. It's a pretty permanent fixture, so there's not really an awful lot I can do about that. And then moving on to this photo, this is the base of that spider beams mast. You can see all the grey wires are the radials. There's a lot of them, but they're not particularly long. Seems to work okay on 40 metres. And what you can't see is going up the inside of the fiberglass mast, there's a 2-inch diameter steel scaffold pole which is concreted in the ground. Goes up it's probably about half a metre that sticks out the ground. So that's holding the mast up. Then, as I said a minute ago, it's guide at the top of the mast as well, or near the top. You can see it's driven with a 1-to-1 balun. Feeder cable is buried in the ground. That goes off to the shack, and it's difficult to see in this photo. You'll see it in the next one. There's a ground rod in there as well, copper ground rod. All the radials come up to that metal plate, and yes, I know it's a little bit gash. And you can see here in this photo, on the coming off the balun, there's 2 wires. The one on the left is the 40 metre quarter wave, and the one on the right is the 80 metre quarter wave, which I've already installed before I took this photo. So both of those wires are running up the mast. And then this really is just the same thing from a slightly different angle. So you can see the 2 driven elements on the left hand side of the balun there. On the right hand side you've got a short jumper cable that goes to the plate where all the radials connect together. I know it's not ideal. I mean, I could do with having a slightly thicker earth cable on there, or ideally connecting the ground plate direct to the balun. So it's not the best, but it's what we've got. And then you can see the copper ground rod there as well. That's a 4-foot copper ground rod sunk into the ground, and the radial plate is connected to that. So I think it's time to put all this on the air and run a couple of tests, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so we're hooked up to the antenna analyzer, and we're going to have a look and see what the SWR curve is doing. So we're going to start on 40 meters, and the first thing I notice is that the resonant point has dropped, which isn't a complete surprise because we've got a bit of coupling between the elements, so that's not unusual. Although the one thing I do notice is that the SWR is higher than it used to be. It used to be around about 1.3, 1.4 to 1, and the lowest I can get it down to is about 1.6, 1.7 to 1. So we've got a bit of interaction going on there between the two elements. If we go further up the band, we're getting over 3 to 1 towards the top of the SSB portion. So first impressions are not great, if I'm honest with you. Having said that though, looking at the 80 meter band towards the bottom at the CW and data portion, it's actually not too bad. It's around 1.5 to 1, which is roughly what I would expect. And then as we go a little higher up the band, it goes up to about 2 to 1 as we get towards the top of the band, but the 80 meter band is quite a big band, so that doesn't surprise me. I was never going to get a flat SWR across the whole band, and even 2 to 1 is still quite usable, so I'm happy with that. I think the conclusion I'm coming to then is 80 meters is quite usable, but I've unfortunately messed up my 40 meters, so I might have to just use the antenna tuner to tidy up 40 meters. Okay, so let's put the antenna on the air, do a couple of tests, make a few contacts, and we'll see how it performs on air. Conclusion then. Well, we're about 2 weeks on from when I filmed the last segment, so I've had a couple of weeks to play with the antenna on air and get a feel for what's going on. 80 meters, it gets out, it works. The signal's not as good as I would have hoped, so it doesn't get out as well as I was hoping, but it works. I think the problem with that is the ground system. The radials just aren't long enough, and there's not enough of them, so I think that's our problem there. But like I say, it works and it's usable, so I guess in the spirit of the video, we got on 80 meters from a relatively small garden. 40 meters, well, as expected, looking at the SWR plots on the antenna analyzer, says it all really. It just doesn't seem to work. I think what's going on with that is because I've taken the 80 meter element off halfway up the mast, whereas the 40 meter element carries on up the mast. I think we're getting a bit of weird interaction with that. I think if I'd gone all the way to the top of the mast with the 80 meter element, then it may not have been so bad, it would have worked. So ultimately though, yes, we got on 80, but we messed up my 40 meters in the process. So 40 meters is, for all intents and purposes, unusable at the moment with that antenna. So I think we're going to call this experiment a failure. I'll put my thinking cap on, have a bit of a rethink, go back to the drawing board, and I'll update you in another video. Thank you for watching. If you like what I do, please click the thumbs up button. It lets me know that I'm heading in the right direction with the channel and gives me the confidence to keep doing what I'm doing. Don't forget to click the subscribe and also the bell button to be notified when I upload new content. If you don't like what I'm doing, feel free to click the thumbs down button. Just tell me why in the comments below. I welcome your feedback, and constructive criticism will help me to improve the channel. Take care, and I hope you will catch me in the next video.